Hey everybody, Dragon Movie Guy here with another movie review, and today we're continuing with my series, I Missed It, You Missed It, Let's Watch It. Today is Wednesday, so it's a You Missed It Wednesday, and the reason why it's a You Missed It Wednesday is because when this film came out in 1993, while it had an amazing cast, it only made $8 million. No, scratch that. It made just under $8 million. This is a film that has become a cult classic and has a cast of then unknowns who have now become A-listers and B-listers all the way up and down the cast lineup. This is a film that has Ben Affleck, Mila Jovovich, Jason London, Joey Lauren-Adams, Parker Posey, and all right, Matthew McConaughey in his very first, that's right, Matthew McConaughey's first time on camera, or on film at least. Of course, we're talking about the stoner comedy Dazed and Confused. All right. By the way, I love my camera is picking up Matthew McConaughey's face over the pot smiley face as the point to focus on, not the actual pot smiley face. But yeah, we're talking about Dazed and Confused. This is a film that has a really big cast and follows both the guys and the gals on the final day of school. And of course, it features the guy no longer in high school and yet for some reason is still hanging around the high school. Of course, we're talking about the Matthew McConaughey character who had one of the funniest, most memorable, and more than a little inappropriate lines in cinema history. In addition to, of course, his signature line, all right. If you haven't seen this film, you've probably heard a lot of your friends quoting from this film, and if you've ever wondered where a lot of those lines came from, they probably came from Dazed and Confused, which, if you would like to pick up a copy, by the way, be sure to click on a link in the description bar below this video. I'm going to put in Dazed and Confused, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the movie, the legend, the cult classic, Dazed and Confused. So I just finished watching Dazed and Confused for the first time in a lot of years, and man, I forgot how good this movie is. This is a film that is so well conceived, well shot, and well executed. I haven't watched this movie all the way through in several years, so like anything else, as time goes on, you forget a lot of the details as to why this film is so good. And yes, of course, we remember all of the Matthew McConaughey lines. We remember Ben Affleck chasing around those poor freshmen with his paddleboard. This is a film that centers around the lives of all of the kids at Lee High School, somewhere randomly in Texas, on the last day of school, 1976. Interestingly, Richard Linklater, the director, writer, producer of this film, is from Texas and was born in 1960, so 1976 in Texas is really his sort of coming-of-age moment. So the fact that this is a coming-of-age story that is very similar in tone and in structure to George Lucas's American Graffiti, which had only come out a year or two earlier, is not surprising. So this is a film that's basically made up of several different short stories following several different groups of friends throughout the course of the last day of school in 1976. Many of these characters cross over into the other stories as the day and then eventually the night unfolds, but this is a film that follows those stories as the film, the day, the night, and eventually the morning after all progress, and balances all of the different characters' story arcs amazingly well. I actually lost track as to how many different storylines there are because they flow and ebb with each other so well, and yet all of these different groups of friends that hang out together and talk together flow so smoothly from one to the other that it's really hard to tell where one story ends and another begins. The film really starts off with Jason London, who plays Pink, and which is sort of a weird name for one of the football players, but Pink's storyline really revolves around whether or not to sign an anti-drug pledge. The football coach has taken upon himself that they will avoid drugs, alcohol, and smoking over the course of the summer. Pink's struggle is to whether or not just to not sign it, but to burn it. And not just burn it, but maybe burn it in front of the coach's face, or crumple it up and throw in the coach's face. Another one of the major story threads in this film is Sean Andrews' character Pickford, whose parents have one of the bigger houses in town, and they're going out of town for the weekend. So, unsurprisingly, Pickford decides to throw a huge party on the last day of school, but as his parents are just about to leave, the keg guy shows up a few hours too early. Yeah, so... So the parents decide not to leave, and all of a sudden now the big party, all of everyone's plans are thrown up in the air. Then, of course, there's Wiley Wiggins' character Mitch, who's the freshman whose older sister is friends with all the senior boys, and she asks them to please take it easy on my little brother. Well, of course, that's like the worst thing you can tell a group of senior guys not to do is pick on Mitch. So... of course, Mitch then gets hazed worse than anyone else. Marissa Ribisi plays the redheaded girl who is friends with Anthony Rapp, who was Mark from Rent, and he's also on Star Trek Discovery, and Adam Goldberg, who was also on Friends for an episode or two. He was the roommate of Chandler when Joey moved out, and he thought that goldfish crackers were alive. Anyway, so Marissa Ribisi, Anthony Rapp, and Adam Goldberg are arguing politics throughout the course of the night, and yet they're still kids, so they end up being sort of embroiled in many of the different storylines as well. And as the day turns to night, and everyone starts showing up for the party that now is no longer happening because the parents aren't going out of town, everyone starts driving around town in their cars, and so much of this film takes place in their cars. And it really does remind me a lot of George Lucas's American Graffiti, which came out just a few years earlier, and of course had Harrison Ford and Richard Dreyfuss and Ron Howard. This is a film that is sort of the 90s version of that, because American Graffiti came out in the 70s and was looking at the 50s, and this film came out in the early 90s and was looking back at the mid-70s. So Richard Linklater is the writer, director, producer of Boyhood, which is another coming-of-age movie, which, I mean, to literally follow a boy, a real-life boy, 13 different years in a fictionalized setting, and literally see him grow up, and of course, as a coming-of-age story, a literal coming-of-age story. He's been nominated for 5 Academy Awards. Ben Affleck, who of course has won for Best Director for Argo, which also won Best Picture. Then of course there's Matthew McConaughey, who won for Best Supporting Actor for Dallas Buyers Club, which, by the way, I think Matthew McConaughey might be the only actual person from Texas in this film with a Texas accent. Also, there was Mila Jovovich, who was the star of the Resident Evil franchise and was basically a supermodel for most of the 90s. Then, of course, there's Joey Lauren Adams, who was in all of the Kevin Smith movies. So obviously, with so many people that have won Academy Awards, Emmy Awards, Tony Awards in Anthony Rapp's case, this is a film that is not surprising that Dazed and Confused turned out to be such an amazing film. So if you haven't seen Dazed and Confused in a long time, if you haven't seen it at all and have just heard people quoting quotes from it, definitely get Dazed and Confused. Click on the link below in the description bar and you can pick up a copy. It would help support my channel. It doesn't raise your cost at all, but definitely if you wanted to pick up a copy of Dazed and Confused for your collection, I highly recommend it. So that's been my review for Dazed and Confused. That has been our You Missed It Wednesday pick of the week. Also, I kind of waited for this week to do Dazed and Confused because 420 was this week, and of course you can't have a Dazed and Confused conversation without 420. So so that is the other reason for having Dazed and Confused the week of 420 being the You Missed It Wednesday pick of the week. I've been Dragon Movie Guy. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video. Also be sure to hit the notification button, hit the playlist button for all of my I Missed It, You Missed It, Let's Watch It movie reviews. I've been Dragon Movie Guy. I'll see you next time. See ya.